This is the Segovia Show.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Segovia Show. On today's episode, I have a returning guest, Mindy from the Orange County Hispanic Republicans Club. Still a chairwoman, right?
Yes.
All right. And I would venture to say, when you came on my program the first time, that was the first podcast you ever done, correct?
Yes.
And you did very well. Almost everybody that comes on my show the first time tends to be their first time. So I like helping them walk it through. And it's always interesting to see what then happens afterwards. Because you've been on the radio now.
Yes. I've been on the show, I want to say like 3 times, which was a great experience. Just being in the studio with David and candidates or just local activists, in our area. It's like interesting connecting with them and hearing stories. It's always informational. So I definitely encourage people to tune into our talk show. It's Saturday nights, AM 870 from now it's 8 to 11.
Oh, wow. Yeah, awesome. Because at first it was like a 1-hour show. Dave was hosting it, and now there's more hosts to it. So that's really cool. So for those that are might be interested, can you tell them a little bit more about that show? Because I know you've been on it 3 times, but I think you kind of worked like the back end a little bit, kind of like a show producer, don't you?
I was like getting guests on that would reach out to me who just wanted to get their campaign out there, because David and Jeffy, they have the radio station, and what they use that platform for is to get local candidates their message, their website, their information out there to the public. These are candidates that usually, we know and we support. So it's helped a lot of candidates get their campaigns out there, and the show has grown so much. Like I said, it went from an hour to 2 hours. Now it's 3 hours. So the show's doing very well. Definitely gets these candidates recognition, and I just encourage even local issues going on like LA, Orange County, just, local issues going on with maybe it's like teachers union, whatever. They have a variety of guests that come on that cover all these different sorts of stories. So it's always great to tune in. I believe they have a YouTube channel as well. It should be on our website. I'll give you the website afterwards.
Okay.
But
sure.
Yeah, you can even tune into old guests that have been on. And it's like I said, it's great information to have.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I follow them on Instagram. They follow me too, by the way. So all references and links will be available in the show notes, as you folks know, whether you're watching or listening on the episodes at the www.segovia.com for this particular episode. And I think there was, I don't know if it was a limited run, but I think they were trying to do something a little more towards our community, because technically it is Hispanos. So they wanted to do like some Spanish content. Had they been able to do much on that or no?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I believe Don is on a set. He's from 9:30 to 9:30 to 10. I don't know the lineup now that it's extended, but he's pretty good at getting bilingual guests on there. David has. For a while, we did have a co-host that was doing a bilingual segment, but I think that may have ended. So,
yeah, because especially since technically it's considered an English station, so I'm sure people that were tuning in that might have affected ratings. Are like, well, I don't understand what they're saying. So, I get that, and that's why I did a limited series on. In Espanol for like real estate 101 stuff early on in my program. And I did want to bring some of that back because there's more tips that I couldn't get around to as I got busier and busier. But those became among my most popular episodes of all, because yes, our community needs to know more about this. And well, one thing that I was excited to bring you back on, because, well, first off, it almost seemed like you were involved in politics, but since then, you matured a lot more. I've seen you come into form. You've hosted some events. There was one that I went to at Anthony Tremino's place over in Irvine Spectrum. Yeah, I think that was among your first. So I got to see a little bit behind the scenes, and then now she's really broken out of her shell, coming into her own, and it's just awesome to see the confidence that has grown within you. You've even volunteered at CPAC and all that. You were behind, I think, my Doug Maestrano before it was cool.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So I actually, so this last year that we went to CPAC, in 2020. Oh, this year, 2022. I was actually staying in the same place as Doug Mastriano and his wife. So I got to spend time with both of them, you know, for about 3 days. It was, you know, he's amazing. His wife is amazing. That was just, it was such a godly couple, you know, America and, you know, God first and then America, you know, that's what was in his heart. And that's why we actually endorsed him as a club, even though it was a national, you know, race.
Pennsylvania, governor for Pennsylvania, and this is more of a local chapter to Orange County here in Southern California. But yes, I have seen that, and the support for him, particularly because it's coming up, and it looks like the polls are showing really close. Even though I don't trust polls as much anymore, but still, it's a motivational thing. I know they can be tweaked, meant to discourage, but it's not election day anymore. It's election season. Yes. So it's like, well, you can start voting as of last week. Wait, what? It's not November yet. It's like, to me, I still maintain the only way to secure elections, to maintain the integrity of it, vote the day of, in person, voter ID. That's it. And it just answers any and every concern anybody should have. Yes. But now that this is such a long, drawn-out process, particularly in Pennsylvania, where, quite frankly, a lot of shenanigans went down, that was like election month. It's like never finished. It's the state of Pennsylvania. The case was even went up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court because the rules were changed unconstitutionally for that election. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things play out. I think it's Doug Mastriano for the Republican Party and Josh Shapiro, if I'm not mistaken, for the Democrats. And the Senate race with John Fetterman and Dr. Oz is really interesting to follow as well, since there's quite a few on the Republican base that are not behind Dr. Oz just yet, and they have their rights to be concerned about him. But I saw this meme that really stood out to me. It's not even a meme; it was someone holding a sign, but it's kind of like a meme. It says, "Vote Republican. They're not perfect, but the other side is insane." Like, yes, exactly.
You know, I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I do get, you know, I hear a lot of people who are just not happy with the Republican Party, and that's like the number one, you know, complaint is, oh, rhinos, you know. However, like I know there was a lot of controversy with the governor right now running for governor, Brian Dolly. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. But, you know, a lot of people didn't want to get behind him, but it's like, I feel like, you know, we have to get behind who the Republican candidate is right now. Otherwise, we are kind of going towards a Democrat way. We're giving them, you know, a hand in this. And so it is definitely like a touchy subject. It's, you know, borderline, just not everybody's going to agree on, you know, not everybody from the Republican Party is going to think 100% like each one of us, but it's the lesser of two evils. So, you know, I feel like it's definitely, I encourage everybody to vote Republican and get behind those candidates.
Yeah. And you know what? So you brought it up. I actually want to extend this a little bit because I think this is it is a good conversation to have, a debate probably. And I think in the instances of California and New York, or maybe even the West Coast elitist states, it might be a little different than, say, the Midwest or somewhere in Texas. Because over here, rhinos are probably the best chance we got in the Republican Party. Not to say that I like that. I absolutely hate that. But one thing that we can do that people don't do is hold them accountable after you vote for them. The only reason they can get away with certain things is because people don't get involved. They don't make the phone calls. Like I think I think we both follow Save California on Instagram. I'm also on True Social, so we're able to communicate easier through there because I might eventually bring them on, extend an invitation to bring them on the show because I admire their work. They're a watchdog for a lot of us, especially for those of us with families to cover these issues. And they're the ones that have been shaking the trees or like knocking on doors, you know, going to the rooftops and shouting to everybody, like, yo, make the phone call, send in emails here. All you got to do is click. How many people have actually done this? Oh, you know, that's too much work. And that's just it. That's like, if you want to complain, first hold them accountable because they do respond. And I think that's what people are lacking is like, it's just like, well, I already pulled the lever or pushed the button on election day. I'm done with my part. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's the beginning of that
Yeah.
so-called relationship, because this individual, someone on the line, is gonna eventually run for re-election.
Right.
Are you gonna just go and after you complain about them, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna vote for them again? It's like, well, you just validated everything that they did instead of holding them accountable.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I think
I get
that's
a lot of
what's lacking. Go ahead.
I get a lot of the same questions like, how can I help? How can, I don't like the direction of what California is going towards. What can we do? And it's like, well, number one, I feel you need to be a volunteer for these candidates who are on the front lines right now. Even it's not just statewide races. It's your city council. It's the judges. They reach out. They need volunteers. It's people running for school board. I'm really trying to focus on school board right now because I feel like that is such an important. It's really important in our communities, and for our children, for our future.
Absolutely.
So, these candidates, they need volunteers to walk right now. I'm really behind the You First candidates. I'm not sure if you've heard of the You First candidates, Mitch Clemens, Raul Ortiz, Eric Ching, and Jessica Martinez.
I heard of 3 of them.
Okay, so they go out, I want to say Monday through Sunday, and pass out flyers. They door knock. It's really simple. You just leave a flyer on their door in the area. They're trying to hit a city I want to say like almost every day they're doing a different city in their district, and their districts kind of overlap each other. So they're all helping each other out. When I went the last time, I was passing out 3 flyers, because it hits their district, that city, overlap their district. So, getting out there, passing out flyers for them. If you don't like doing that, you can make phone calls from home. You get a list of Republican candidates that they supply you with, and you make phone calls and just let them know, hey, so-and-so is running for, Congress or state Senate in your area. And, hopefully we can count on your vote, just to let people know that there is somebody who has their values running in this race. If you can't do that, finances are always needed. I know that they appreciate even just a $5 donation, the marketing that they have to do, putting up the signs, sending out mailers, getting the postcards out that we have. And I actually like the You First candidates. Their flyers are in English and Spanish. So, it has all of the bullet points of what they stand for, and they're all in English and Spanish because, they're trying to reach the Hispanic communities, which is why I volunteer a lot for their campaigns. But yeah, and just most importantly, I would say share their campaign, with your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, your family, whoever, because it's really important. And I also agree with you when you say, vote in person. I vote in person as well. However, I know that the Democrats have been for years ballot harvesting, picking up ballots for people and dropping them off. And so I offered to do that last election as well. I was picking up ballots for people and taking them in because it's like if I know that they're not going to go in and vote, I will call them and I will tell them, hey, let me go just let me help you vote. We'll go over the candidates. I'll let you know I've done that for some of my friends where we sat there and went through, the candidates and what was on the ballot, and they let me take the ballot for them. I'm willing to do that. It's just, you can do that also for your family members or friends. Pick up as many ballots as you can and drop them off. I know the election integrity is a thing, but we can't just give it to them. We have to make it hard. We have to make it hard for them to cheat.
Exactly. And in the case of ballot harvesting, technically it is legal in California. Yes. So we're not talking about, for those that are watching my show, are probably familiar with Project Veritas and the sting operation they did in Ilhan Omar's district. I think it's in Michigan or Wisconsin, I forget one of the two, or Minnesota, where there were some Somali canvassers going around ballot harvesting, and it's illegal over there. So that's different than, say, here where it is legal, because some might have seen the documentary 2000 Mules. I highly recommend it.
I was hearing people talk about that the other day. I haven't seen it yet.
You have to see it. I'll talk to you about it after this. But some of this stuff in certain places, it is illegal. California, as far as I understand, it is legal. So you're just using the tools and avenues available to you to help others vote. And having said that about California, I think to me the most important things are the assembly races, and like you said, city council and school boards.
Mhm.
Huge. I don't have my children in public schools. I pay private Christian school, and even though since our last conversation, I've moved out of that area of where my kid's school was. I've always commuted since seventh grade, uh, 30 miles to school. So to me, it was just returning to forms that, all right, now I'm going to be commuting my kids to school. And that's exactly what I'm doing because I still work in the area and the school's there and it just works with my schedule. So I told my children, I told the school faculty, like, oh, so this is the last time the kids will be here. No, 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 nothing changes. It's just where they sleep that changes. It'll be further away, but they will be here for school. Their friends won't change. And I do that. But I also feel because the school is next to a public school. And every time I see that, these giant schools, I'm like, how many of those kids are not getting that care, and the parents try to do something, don't know what to do, and if they should go, because I have friends in, I don't want to mention the school district out loud, but I have friends in the school district who try to make a difference, and were just targeted because they would not kowtow rank and file with what the union was doing. Man, even in a supposed conservative bastion red area like this, that's where it begins because they know the Democrats know, the leftists know, go after our children, which is why it's such a big deal about what's happening in places like the West Virginia school or Virginia school, in certain places where the parents had to go up and try to speak to the education board,
Mhm.
and they were really being like shooed away by these boards, and then the Department of Justice ends up going out to investigate them for terrorism, domestic terrorism. Like the parents, like what? Just because they want to know and they want to say, "Just stop teaching this pornography to kindergartners."
Mhm.
It,
Yeah.
it is crazy. So your emphasis on that is on point, right on, and a little bit on that, I guess, is kind of a segue, but still on the topic is nuestra comunidad, because they definitely need a lot more information because I feel a lot of our people, they know but won't go vote.
Yes. Yes. And that is what, yes, exactly. I know a lot of people like that, or they say, my vote does not count. I know so
Or
many
I'm too
people. I mean,
busy.
I grew up hearing that in my family, our vote doesn't count. So that's why I don't vote. That's how my grandparents, my parents, everyone would always say that. But it's not true. Your vote does count. I mean, there are candidates who have won by 9 votes. You know what I mean? And it's not just, like I said, not just like the president and the vice president. Those races are another thing of their own. But locally, your vote does count. So I encourage everybody, even if it's going to be voting by mail. I mean, if they say, no, I want to do my own ballot, but I'll mail it. Okay. Just get your ballot out somehow. You have to do whatever you can, especially in California. We're really playing catch up. Like, I think I may have said that last time, but it's like a catch up race to what the Democrats have been on for decades. They're very great at marketing. They're great at, they have the money, they have the money to do it. And like, I always hear, Republicans, but they don't have the money that the Democrats have to get as many people. I mean, the Democrats are able to pay people to go out and riot, like they were hiring
Yes.
people to like go out and riot. That's the money that they have backing them up. We're doing this grassroots efforts. We're doing this with morals, we're not being bought out. And so it's just really important to vote, to at least do that part, to at least do that much, for your community, and really research who your candidates are.
Yeah, and I think something that goes along with that is the fact that uh, those in the conservative space, kind of like Christianity itself, they get very touchy with disagreements. It's like, oh, then we can't work together. It's like, okay, but do we agree on the common denominator? Christianity, do we agree that Jesus Christ is Lord? Then okay, I think we can break bread together and do something together. Same thing with conservatives. They're like, and like, well, they're not full conservatives, or maybe they're more moderate conservative, if such a thing exists.
Mhm.
Someone that's running locally said that. I'm like, okay, you got to explain that part, because I'm like, you're trying to get my vote, but that kind of threw me for a loop because like I thought we agreed, but still, anybody but the communists trying to run in my area. So that's the
Exactly.
way I feel.
Exactly.
But it's still because of that. It's like, oh yeah, that therefore I'm not going to vote. The one I swallowed my pride to vote for McCain. not begin. Never liked him. Like, I'm not voting for you. I'm voting for Palin. And then when Romney happened, I was like, this guy's no different than Obama, but anybody but Obama. And that was I felt that was among the last times I ever did that. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna hold anyone accountable that wants my vote. So that was like the last time because when Trump was running, I didn't vote for him. So I was already walking away to turn in my ballot without ever having voted for a president for the first time since I was able to vote. And as I was gonna turn it in, it's like something within me was like tapping me within here in my head, and just like everything just flashed. The past 48 hours of like election news flashed before my eyes, and I said, "Has a candidate ever worked harder for your vote than he has?" I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, the other ones were always like means like, yeah, I'm gonna support you, and this one's like, nah, he's got to earn it. And then it hit me. I'm like, man, I hope I don't regret this. So I went back to the booth and voted for Trump.
Oh, wow.
And when I turned it in. So then in 2020, I'm like, oh, I'm voting for you, man. I'm doing it. It's like I didn't regret my vote. Because that's how people should be, though. It's like, dude, hold them accountable. And I think what's lacking greatly in at least the California Assembly Republicans, because these are the squishy Republicans. But we talk about Kevin Kiley, but I think is he? I keep mixing them up. He's Assembly, isn't he? He's one of the
districts. Assembly. Kevin Kiley, yes, I believe he's
not the state senate, but Assembly. Okay, here's the thing. He's someone that is tweeted even at the national level. But I'm asking myself, why is it that none of them, even including Kevin, none of them has spoken out against any of these bills, Assembly bills or Senate bills that come to the floor? No Republican has opposed any of these things that were taking parental rights away, that were taking some of our personal rights away with regards to health. Not one Republican stood up and spoke. And if there was one, maybe a sentence, if there was. But they were all unopposed. I'm like, dude, really? It's like, so to me, I don't care who they are. Let's vote them out and get people into that will actually fight for us.
Yeah.
And that's why I have been interested in certain individuals. And since the Hispanic Republican Club, I'm sure it's expanding, but the predominant chapters are LA and Orange County.
Right.
Right. So as far as your endorsements go, I told you you can let my audience know who you've endorsed. Whether I agree with it or not is not the point. I told you that you can bring those endorsements on. And if you have them handy for Los Angeles, starting off there, because that is probably the most important county right now that's affecting a lot of people. Who, if any, locally, do you have that people should consider voting for?
I would say, well, I know, okay, there's a lot. So I don't know. Yes. There's like a lot. I'm actually getting the list ready right now, so the link is going to be available.
Okay.
Hoping tomorrow or Monday. But I'll tell you that candidate we're really pushing is Jack Guerrero, who's running for California State Treasurer. He is currently City Council on City of Cudahy, I believe. I believe he's City Council, but he has really been one of the candidates I've also gotten behind, and David has, endorsed, and he's managing his campaign. So we're really pushing him, which is at least a state race, that people can recognize. He is not afraid to call people out on corruption. I mean, there's been an investigation. I want to say it was a few years ago. There was an investigation on like fraudulent money that the current city council was. What were they doing? They were money law. It was like the money, like they're paying themselves millions of dollars in a community where the average resident only makes like $30,000, and so he called out that corruption. He got an investigation going. I mean, and he's not going to back down when it comes to going to Sacramento and, being state treasurer. He has years of experience in the financial industry. He has a plan. I would encourage you to go to his website and, research him, but that's definitely one that I'm getting behind. As I mentioned, the You First candidates, I don't have all of their districts on hand, but that would be Jessica Martinez, who covers like from Whittier, La Habra Heights. It's more of like the Orange County border cities and some in Orange County. Mitch Clemens, the way that they redistrict people, it made it really weird.
Yes,
so some of these candidates have like a few cities in Orange County, and then some are like LA, but they're local. surrounding cities to us. So Mitch Clemens is somebody I'm really encouraging people to vote for as well.
I think Mitch Clemens. I'm trying to
Mitch
think. Is he the one out in like towards the Riverside area that the GOP recently like withdrew their endorsement of?
No, he's okay. So he's running for state senate, and he doesn't have his
Wait, that was Mike's
District 30, I believe. Is it District 30? Yeah, state senate 30th district. So he has like City of Industry, La Habra, which is Orange
Okay.
County, Fullerton.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, Mitch Clemens. Eric Ching is also.
I think he's like La Puente, Diamond Bar
Yes.
area.
And he's running for Congress. So and I think so La Habra and Fullerton, might even be in his area as well. But yeah, him, Eric Ching, Raul Ortiz. That's really, and we're also, like I said, school board is super important to me. So we're getting a lot of I'm trying to research as many as I can. I have a whole list, like I said, that would take all day. But
of course. But and that's just it. That there's just so much out there,
there's so much.
And we are more distracted by what goes on in Washington when we should be caring more about what happens in our backyard. There is a name, and I think you guys might have had her on your program. Okay, I've seen you post about her, Barbara George. I think she's running for education or the city council in Newport Beach.
She's running for school board in Newport Mesa. I was just going to mention Barbara George. She's running for she's Newport Mesa School Board Area 4, and she's also another one I'm getting behind. I'm going to start walking for her. Hopefully next week I'll be able to make it out and supporting her, because she has been on the front lines, for years now, going out. She was teaching like communities in Santa Ana, Anaheim, in Spanish. She was teaching parents what they're teaching our children in school, the critical race theory. She has a whole presentation on that, and she was going out to these Spanish speaking communities and teaching them what it is that our children are actually being taught. And they were not happy. A lot of parents have no clue what's being taught to their children. And I think a lot of it was brought to light during COVID when, they were doing the Zoom meetings or the school, on Zoom. That's when a lot of parents and mama bears rose up and were like, oh no, we are not going to sit back and let this just happen. There's
exactly.
And even, just from that, people like, I believe Barbara, it encourages them to run for this type of race because they see the impact it makes on our children and what they're teaching them. Not only that, but it's like our kids in California are on the lowest levels of education, like their scoring on education is horrible. I mean, I have some people that were talking about how our high school students can't even read like at a 5th grade level. Yeah. It's really sad. And what COVID did even to these kids, being out of school for 2 years, pushed them back even more. There's like the kids who are entering kindergarten, they're a little behind, socially. It's affected people tremendously. So it's encouraged a lot of people to get out there and run for something or get more involved, get organized. There's like a lot of groups that have formed. The Freedom Keepers, there are a lot of groups in different areas that have formed to do more to help California and just stop. I mean, there's different groups that do so many different things. You can get involved on if you want to do parent rights, if you want to be medical freedom, if you're more interested in going to events where local candidates are speaking so that you can meet them. That's what our group focuses on. We also focus on volunteering for candidates that we endorse and support. Like I said, David uses his radio show as a platform to get them on. That's what our group kind of focuses on. I know Fullerton CRA, they have monthly meetings and they always have local candidates. I've met a lot of they have like the really small races, like I mentioned, the judges and the city council, school board. They get a lot of candidates that go to those meetings, and it's every month, and they're really consistent. And so it's like getting these groups organized. And just getting involved in one of them, doing your part and getting involved in one of them, whatever interests you, whatever God is putting in your heart, because it is a calling. I feel like it's a calling. And so whatever it is that, you're called to do, I would just encourage you to get out to, there's a lot of events coming up. Um, I try to keep our members updated on local events, like, through email as often as we can, because there's so many events coming up.
It's crazy.
But get out to one of them and network and see what, these different groups are about, and see which one, interests you the most. And, or even if it's just a candidate, get behind a candidate and start volunteering for them or helping them however you can. It's not a time to sit back. That's for sure. Not a time to sit back and wait for someone else, to do it. It's up to us, because we're literally fighting for our state right now. And
Yes, that's why I predominantly use both hashtags Save California and Fix California, because
yes.
we have a chance at doing something. And I saw a poll that was put out on YouTube. I think it was Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire who polled what's more important this election cycle. And I think, well, one was a congressional race, one was abortion, the other one was the economy, and then there was one about school boards. And for the first time, I looked at a poll. I'm like, wow, they're all important. But if anything, I might pick the school one, mostly because that's the future. That we can make that change that will have a generational impact to educate our children right, instead of trying to get the let's fix it now or let's put a bandage on it right now, and then these people are out of office in 2 to 6 years depending on what it is, and nothing's changed.
Mhm.
Whereas if we train our children the way they should go when they grow old, they will not depart from it. That's a proverbs.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
that's why I'm like, I think the school boards thing is probably the most single-handed the most important issue this
Mhm.
election cycle, followed
Yes.
closely by just about everything else, but
Yeah.
it begins there.
Yeah.
um
I have
and what you
another
mentioned.
Lisa Wozab is running for Fullerton School District as well. That's another one that we are behind. And Melissa Salinas, who's running for Lowell School District. That's like La Habra areas. It's kind of like Whittier, La Habra area. But she's also running for school board there as well. So we're behind those
Relations?
two. Yeah, we're behind them as well.
Any relation? Salinas?
No, not in any relation, but I love her. She's my sister in the Lord, I always say.
Alright,
She's
awesome.
like a really great mentor to me too. So,
Mm.
her values are there, and her morals are there, and she's been involved in politics for a long time. So she's actually doing a great job now. I believe she's like the president right now for the school board, but she's running again. But they've done a great job on the keeping the bad stuff out of their curriculum. Not getting too much pushback on, keeping that out of their school district. So it's really important to keep, it makes a difference when you have these elected officials as the leadership in, the school district. It makes a huge difference. I mean, we saw that when the shutdowns happened in Orange County. Our beaches stayed open, but LA's beaches they were kicking you out. They were like filling
Yeah,
up the
what
skate parks with sand.
Yes, Venice Beach. Oh my goodness, that was insane. Meanwhile, all those Angelinos came over to OC. It's like, we're coming.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, I was still going to the beach. I was being a rebel and I was still going to the beach, and they wouldn't kick us out. They were just like, as long as we were minding our business and not breaking the law, they left us alone. So it does make a huge difference who our local or local officials are. It makes a big difference.
And I think that speaks even more volumes to Los Angeles. I'm an Angelino, born and raised, Los Angeles Memorial. That's where I was born. I grew up on the border of Compton and Watts. So I was there running King Rides, the 105 freeway. I was there before even that freeway was built. It was built just 3 houses down from where I was. So I remember the trenching happening. I was almost run over by a pickup truck when I was 7 years old on that same street. Don't forget it. And I have all my memories of childhood are Los Angeles. So it pains me to see how much has happened. In fact, this episode hasn't gone up because it's going to go up much later when because I do some extra episodes ahead of time, solo shows. One of my more popular real estate focused series is Local Broker, which is yours truly reacts to something, whether it's comedy or news or whatever. And there's a film that I absolutely love called Heat, starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. It's a crime drama from 1995, mistakenly labeled an action thriller. But anyway, the point is, it is Los Angeles is front and center a character in that film, and it is the perfect movie. I absolutely love it. Anybody that hasn't seen it, go check it out. I even did a 2 hour dissection of it with my co-host on the Critic Corner for locals. Check that out. Links available in the description down below. But there was a documentary that was done 10 years after that called Return to the Scene of the Crime. What Los Angeles looked like then to what Los Angeles look like now. And I remember all that because I grew up in all that. I'm like, oh, I know where they filmed this opening scene. That is now Toyota Central. That the commercials will always pop up. Toyota Central, right there by the convention center. And when you 10 years later, I'm like, whoa, that was a Staples Center and all that. It was really different. Well, I'm going to do a follow-up to that with my co-host. I told him, we're going to go to Los Angeles. We're going to take self-defense weapons because we're going to need them. Yes. And it's just sad that we have to. And he's a veteran, so I'm like, I think we'll be good. But to go over there to see how much has changed since that documentary, what's transpired, because Los Angeles is not what it was. And I think I believe she's your colleague. Jeffy is running for city council of Los Angeles, is she not?
I don't think she made. Jeffy, I don't think she made the ballot.
Oh, bummer. So I think that was the primary. She was trying to qualify.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the last update I saw.
But I don't see her backing down or giving up at all because she is a fighter, and I know she's not going to stop. So
she's got a voice.
See her. Yeah, she does have a voice. That's why it's great, that she does host the radio show as well because she uses her voice.
And for people, just to give people an idea, which is why I'm like, oh, I'm pulling for her. Unfortunately, I'm not in Los Angeles. I can't vote for her. So I couldn't give her my physical support in that way. But look, the LA City Council is putting on the ballot to give them the authority to remove a duly elected sheriff because that's how much they hate Sheriff Villanueva. It's like, hold on. So the people vote in the sheriff, and if the city council doesn't like them, they can have them removed. How is that not authoritarianism or fascism? The very thing that these people speak with the right is. That's how crazy scary LA City Council's power is trying to be extended. I mean, people might not know this, but Los Angeles City is, if they haven't done so already, they're expected to open their first state-run bank. State-run bank. That's communist. It's like, so the state runs a bank. It's meant for politicians and things. So in other words, it's an entire money laundering scheme that they're intending to do. How did Los Angeles go so left and fall off the cliff that it's become a slice of Cuba or Venezuela? But it's that extreme now. Yes. And we have a health director that has no credentials in health calling for health emergencies and masking in schools and all that. It's like, but Barbara Fetterman, whatever her name is, she is not a doctor. In fact, she was at I don't know how many events breaking her own rules, and she was caught. I think one of them was like a sporting thing, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was at that the laundry vineyard thing with Gavin Newsom.
Oh yes, I think she was. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so it's like, do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
People need to pay attention to what's
happening. And it's because, how did that happen? Well, we were all sleeping, trusting that the government was doing right by us, because I was a Democrat for a long time. I didn't pay attention. I would just vote, as long as you're a Democrat, I'm going to vote for you, didn't pay attention. It wasn't until, around 2018 or 2016 that I started kind of switching and waking up and seeing like, this does not align with my morals. This is not how, I don't think we need to be focusing on men coming into the women's bathroom. I think we need to focus on more important issues, like what's going on with the homeless crisis, what's going on with, everything going on. We don't really need to worry about trans or males coming into the women's bathroom. And that's where I saw, it started going. And that's when I changed to start voting more Republican and becoming conservative. But that's how it happened, is that they really had us fooled. We were sleeping and we just let these people have control. I mean, there needs to be term limits,
Oh my goodness.
People
Yes.
in Congress, and they've been there for like 60 years. And it's like, why do you not want to retire? I don't understand. Like, why are you still doing this? Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, why are they still in office? Don't you want to retire and enjoy your life? All the money you've made off of us? Like, come on.
Maxine Waters doesn't live in the district she represents. Yeah. In fact, she's living off the taxpayer dime on a mansion somewhere. Yeah. And it's like, hold on. how do you know what these people are going through on the street down there?
Yeah.
And with this, with the rise in crime, and as I think, I don't know if you and I talked about this, but I think I mentioned to some other guests that I saw the handwriting on the wall. What what was going to be done to shoot down the recall Gascon thing. When I saw that happen, I'm like, I didn't want to discourage you. It's like, keep fighting, but they already rigged it against you guys to lose.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. But there's a lawsuit being brought forth to, it's like, hey, fix these voter rolls, sum things up, and they believe that it did qualify. So I'll see where that goes. I mean, this is where the judges come into play. Look, for all intents and purposes, folks, I'm going to drop a line here because it's enormous news this week, and it affects things that I do here. Alex Jones, just the day before I'm recording this, a jury was awarding the victims of Sandy Hook damages of basically rounding up to $1 billion because Alex Jones said something, said words. He wasn't the shooter at the Sandy Hook. And he even said, after maybe 24 minutes of total reporting of his station covering it, it's like, no, that this it's not a false flag operation. Sandy Hook did happen. But it wasn't enough because the powers that be that hated him worked against him. And they're trying to silence him by bankrupting him entirely and not having any features. Not to mention he's banned from every platform in existence,
Right.
like Laura Loomer is, someone that you're familiar with. So they're trying to make an example out of him. And if this holds precedent, that means people cannot speak out against anything at
Takes our
all, even
freedom
if
of
it's protected
speech.
speech. Yes.
Takes our
And
freedoms away.
and the judge quite literally rigged it from the beginning. Basically, to paraphrase, the judge said, Alex Jones is guilty. The question is, how guilty is he? You don't start a case like that. And so everything was set against him already from the beginning, where you have a right to a fair trial. So he has to appeal. I think this is Connecticut. He has to appeal. But the question is, will the financing even be there? Because that's the whole point. They just want to bankrupt him one way or another. It's like, we're going to win no matter what. And they're trying to shut him up. And I heard him in an interview this morning. As we're recording this on Lotta with Crowder. Recommend you guys check him out. My club. And he spoke about that. He's not backing down. He's not going to take a knee. So, and he revealed a lot in that conversation. I recommend people to check out. But anyway, not to go too far into the point is, activist judges. Judges are important. School boards. These are all local. And they don't make the news. The only thing that makes the news is, what did Biden's handlers do? What did
Or they're still talking about Trump too. So.
Oh yeah, he lives rent free in their heads. Okay, it's like, I can't.
He still makes headlines every day, and it's like, come on, guys.
I know they might as well say, "You complete me." That's like what they're saying. Like, they can't let him go. Like, just today, they're supposed to hold the last hearing for the January 6th hearings, and they're talking about maybe subpoenaing Trump. It's like, so now you want to subpoena him? You really can't let him go. It's like, because that's how bad they don't want him.
I feel like they're just doing everything in their power to get him to not run again. I don't know.
They're just encouraging him
or not,
like,
but yeah,
you guys are giving him free press time and more campaign fundraising, and he's not even campaigning yet. So it's like, what? It's, hey, it's that's on you. You guys are doing that. You guys are shooting yourselves in the foot. But with all that, that's how important the local stuff is. There are some candidates that I've been interested. I was supposed to do a series where I was going to have various candidates on my program, and I was scheduling them out. But two things happened. I might have told you a little bit. You might be aware of this. My baby was born, and then the complications that came after that. So then that one kind of shuffled the schedule for a bit as I was forced to go into hiatus. And then when I came back, because of what I went through, the audience was kind of pushing me to, let's talk about more health stuff, particularly mental health. And that episode is coming, where I'm going to open up about that. My wife just hasn't mustered the courage to talk about it yet. So it's like, maybe, honey, you can be off camera so we could talk about it. But because those things came into play, I had to completely reshuffle the schedule, and I couldn't make that time anymore. And in the end, I'm like, you know what? I think it's okay, because I don't want to appear like I was endorsing anybody either, which is unfortunate, because there was a great candidate, you might be familiar with him, Diego Martinez. And I didn't like what the Republican Party, the local ones that endorsed him and then unendorsed him. And because they couldn't unendorse him, they endorsed his competitor. Like, you guys did dual endorsements? It is insane. It hasn't happened there before. And that was their behavior. I mentioned the one from Riverside. I forget his name. He has I think an Italian sounding last name, or European, something like that, where the GOP, the California GOP, endorsed him and then brought him on like this sham Zoom call to tell them that they're pulling it away, or they didn't really explain why.
Yeah, it's
And
a
it's
very
like, we
good
just don't
point.
like what you. Like,
You know,
why you?
I heard someone say a few weeks back, like, yes, you know, the GOP definitely does need to focus on the candidates that we the people get behind. And I think we need to deal with them in the years coming up. But right now, it's like, let's just focus on the local matters at hand and then deal with the GOP next year. You know, you can run for GOP president, or, you know, whatever the positions are on the GOP. You could be a board member. You can also run for that. And so if people are even interested in getting more information about that or how to get involved, the GOP actually, they have a lot of resources. They do a lot of trainings. They're not all bad. They're not all rhinos, you know. there's a lot of there's a lot of good ones out there, and they have a lot of resources. So if you are ever interested in getting involved with the GOP and helping to make that change from within, I encourage people to do that as well. Like I said, there's a lot of people willing to train you, give you the tools and resources that you do need to understand the way that the communities are set up. If you want to just target, you know, one specific community, they have the tools and resources to give you that information. So if you want to be more involved in helping clean up the GOP, or at least, you know, having your, I know David tried running for something in in the LA GOP, but that was a while back and he didn't get that. But
Yeah, when I
you know,
first
you
met
can
him,
still.
he was running for lieutenant governor, and
Mhm.
he had my vote. I met him at in Long Beach at a landlord conference convention, which is actually appearing again. So I don't know if he's going to be sponsoring a booth again. Because if he is, then great. I'll show up, because he's going to return to Long Beach, the first one in person since the lockdown. So I'm excited about that, because they bounced from LA and Long Beach, and this was going to be in Long Beach, and that's where I met Dave. Maybe, man, I want to say maybe 6 years ago. So that's why when I saw him at the event, that the first one that you hosted, which was exciting. It was a good time, very good time. I didn't even know that place was there in Irvine Spectrum. I was like, Irvine Spectrum, where, by the Ferris wheel? It's like, oh no, there's a place here. So I got to talk to your husband, a good man, and then you ended up going to El Salvador, so that was
Yes,
good.
beautiful,
Yes,
beautiful.
it is. But
And the president is, I mean, I'm like, babe, can we move to El Salvador? Because their president, your guys, El Salvadorian president is just like amazing.
yeah, and unfortunately, in El Salvador, they're only reduced to one term. So he only has 6 years to
Mm.
serve, and that's it. And the people down there do want the constitution to be amended to allow him to run for re-election.
Because he's young.
And
He's
well,
young.
yes, he is. But on top of that, the existing parties over there don't like him. So it's like they're Trumps. Like they don't want him. That's what they were trying to make him out to be, like a dictator and things like that. There was one thing that Bukele did. Like Bukele, even as someone up here, I can tell you that the optics look bad. They're gonna say you're a dictator. That's exactly what they tried doing. Where even the United States had to kind of denounce something that he did at the Congress. I'm like, ay, ay, ay. The optics. But then that's kind of washed away. It's like, oh, wait, there you go. But um with when I saw David at your event, and I told him, how does it feel to see that your baby grew and you don't have to work to do anything, you can just show up? It feels good to just show up. Because yeah, he was a very hard worker. He served our
He still
country.
is. He still is. He does not stop. I'm telling you. I'm like,
Doesn't stop.
how does he do the radio station from 8 to 11? I can't even stay up past like 9:30 anymore. But he is committed. He is, you know, just committed to doing everything that he can to help anybody who's interested in getting started or is interested in running. You know, he has always been there to help, give his wisdom, you know, help you from filling out the application, how to pay your fees. I mean, we even raised money to be able to help out. I want to say it was like 7 candidates pay for their filing fees to be able to get on the ballot, you know, and so he's really good at doing stuff like that. He's really good at finding candidates and just getting them connected, you know. So that's another resource that we have with our club as well. It's like, if you're ever considering running for something locally, please reach out to us and we can connect you, you know.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a lot of people whose hearts are getting stirred up and want to do something, so if you have it in you to run, definitely encourage you to do so.
Yeah, I was doing a grassroots campaign about 10 years ago to run locally for city council of Anaheim, the biggest city in Orange County.
Oh,
And my to be campaign manager, when they realized that also you are an idealist, so you're not you're not going to get it in line with the mouse, the house of mouse. Like, no, I'm not. At the time, the mouse still had all the power, and it was like, well, then I recommend that you don't run this one in this cycle because the mouse is going to really crush this one. It's like, well, maybe so. So then I'm like, well, I could take him on some other way. And the mouse has actually lost a lot of power since then. Who knows? But at this point, I'm like, great. So now anybody just checking out my show would be like, hey, Andres says this. See, he can't run for city officials. Like, well, I'm not even trying at this point, but I'm still gonna do what I can to wake people up to speak out for those that are either too afraid to speak or don't have a voice.
right.
And it's along those lines. There's two things that I want to touch on to close us out. But one, this is more for my audience, but I want you to hear it in a way. But I also want to mention this to you. For those of us that feel that like we can't trust political action groups or anything of the sort, unless you get involved or get to know the people behind some of these efforts, then you'll never ever truly know. When it comes to Democrat operations, they're almost all one and the same. Where it's like you kind of get a feel for it after a while, and so did I. Nuri Martinez, as of this episode, has resigned from the city council. I was invited to a dinner with them for a business function, and I said I will not be in the same room with her. This was years ago, and I was told like you're so exaggerating with all this, like you gotta eventually break bread with the other side. It's like first off, I refused to shake the hands of Javier Becerra, and that was when he was he Secretary of State? I forget what he was for California, something more local. Hey, you still up until a couple years ago, he still sent Christmas cards or holiday cards to my office. But it's interesting to see his family grow up. I'm like, I cannot shake hands with a man that is the antithesis of everything that I believe in. But somehow his Christmas pictures or holiday pictures give a different idea of what he might be. He's like, no, I'm seeing through the lies, and I'll look at what he's doing in his position. Was it health secretary or whatever it is, in trying to mutilate our kids and feeding them puberty blockers and things like that. So see, I knew I was right to not shake your hand. And the case with Nura Martinez, like you're definitely a fraud, and I'm glad she finally got called out for what she was, and now she's disgraced, so she doesn't have a political future. At least I hope not. So I hope more people are waking up to that fact. It's okay. You can stand on your principles, but you also need to get to know the people behind it. So when they see things like that, and then like organizations like yours crop up, I would not have ever considered having you on the show. I would not have even considered having any further conversations had I not met David and gotten to know enough about him through reputation, not just words. Like here's someone that served our country, literally, and is continuing to serve on the political sphere, and he puts his money where his mouth is. And then you come in aboard and getting to know you the past year, almost 18 months now,
Mhm.
and getting to know you. It's a you're people that can stand behind and say, I I can confirm them. I'm not involved in anything else with the GOP whatsoever. The closest thing would be your organizations that are reaching out to nuestra comunidad and trying to do right by them for our communities, for our states, for our families and future and the families' future. And my hats off to all of you. 'Cause I've seen how hard you all work. I've seen you guys get burned by some of your endorsements too. It comes with the territory,
Yeah.
but you guys don't back down. It's made you smarter on how you approach things. It's like, okay, we learn from that and keep going. And that's what's awesome. You don't give up. You keep going and are trying to do right. And that's what I encourage people to do. So this is as close to a political action committee endorsement as it gets. And that would be yours.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. And I want to even say, like I said, I used to be a Democrat. So it's like, even for us working with, I mean, I want to reach Democrats as well. I want to change their minds. I want to persuade them to, even, if they don't want to switch parties, at least vote correctly. So we do. I know David has a lot of Democrats that he's worked with, over the years in the past that are moderate Democrat. But it's like we have to reach out to them as well. We have to
Exactly.
get them to vote accordingly to their morals. And there's a lot. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are Democrats and they're just like, but we're not going to vote Democrat. And so they're calling me like, who do we vote for? I'm not going to say, oh, I'm not going to talk to you because you're a Democrat. That's a lot of the mentality that some of the Republicans or conservatives have. And we're not like that. We want to encourage, no matter what party you are, just to vote accordingly. And yeah, by getting to know us, coming to the events and getting to know who we are, you can see who we endorse, what our morals are, how, what we align with. And if that's you, then, you can vote accordingly. But yeah, I just want to encourage, to still reach out to the Democrats that, and try to get them to vote, your way. So
not every Democrat's a leftist, but every leftist is a Democrat. So people need to realize that. And because you mentioned it, for anybody that's interested, I actually clipped out Mindy's walkaway story, as I labeled it, when she was on my program the first time. So that's available on Instagram, and I believe it's also available on the main show on YouTube. So I'll be sure to share that again, because I think it was a great testimony of yours for your walk away after you got red pilled. And more people need to know about that, because Texas and the GOP was rallying around Myra Flores. So that's the second thing that I want to touch on as we wrap up. So Myra Flores winning a predominantly blue district, which for the life of me, I do not understand. If our people knew English more, they would never vote Democrat. They would not vote for the very things they ran away from. But they're behaving like Californians. They leave California and vote the same way when they leave to destroy another state. Like, that's what you ran away from. Same thing with our people, but because they get all these freebies dangled over them, and the GOP does next to no effort whatsoever to reach out to our community. That really upset me, because there were numbers that were being put out, I think, over the past weekend, or might have been the previous weekend, where it was like a CNN thing being shared everywhere. Look at the numbers in Black support going to the Republicans and dropping for the Democrats. Look at the number of Hispanic voters going to the Republicans and dropping for Democrats, especially since Trump. So they show that, and I'm like, yes, and zero effort from the leadership of the GOP. Zero effort. But then Myra Flores wins, like, oh yeah, look, that's awesome, huh? We're winning this. Like, yeah, but you didn't do it. It was the grassroots movement and the Trump effect. So we give credit to where credit's due. And I think immediately following that, because there's some Republicans that more hardcore conservatives that have their concerns about voting for conservatives that may not look like them. They say, oh, no, they're going to vote maybe against our policies. Our people tend to be one-dimensional when it comes, or one-issue voters, and that's the issue of immigration. I know it's a very touchy subject among our people.
Very touchy. And I've been called out on that too. And it's like, do you not see the color of my skin? I mean, like, I don't understand what you're getting upset about. Like, it's a very touchy subject, immigration.
And that I think speaks to the issues that some people have, because after Myra Flores was voted in, there's a segment of the Republicans or conservatives that immediately dismissed her as a rhino, including someone that and I respect. And I do not hold to that, because at first I'm like, crap. Then I looked into a little more. I was like, well, maybe it wasn't as clear cut as possible. But even if it was, these people have to run for re-election. Hold them accountable. Just like I said at the very beginning, it's not just ballot day. You hold them accountable while they're in office.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, reaching out to Democrats. I think some Democrats have seen enough in their old age. We're like, I'm done. My local assemblyman, I thought for sure he ran for Congress, or at least state Senate. He's retiring. And he's the only Democrat I voted for in the last cycle. And I was like, you know what? I told myself I'm not going to vote Democrats anymore, because they made abortion their party platform in 2016 at the Democrat National Convention. But you, sir, have been one that's been fighting for technically conservative rights. I'm like, you know what? I will vote for you. You earned my vote, but this is probably the last time I vote for you. So this next election cycle, I'm like, I don't think I could vote for you. And then he announced that he's not running. I'm like, oh, like, whoa, why? It's like, I'm just going to take time with my family. It's like, dude, you were a good mayor. And I think he was on the city council before he was mayor. And then as a He actually responded to my inquiries whenever I reached out to his office. He responded directly, not a staffer. I'm like, I wish there were more like you. I wish there were more Zell Millers, who was a senator of Georgia, Democrat, and he retired as such back in the early 2000s. But they're like they're hard to find, if
Yeah.
any more at all, unfortunately. But I think that's where we'll leave it. Mindy, I'll let you plug in everything you got to plug in. And for those of you listening and watching, those links will be available in the show notes of the company's episode. But for those that need to hear it, by all means, let people know where they can follow and when they can expect your voter's guide to be published.
Okay, yeah, the voter's guide should be out early next week. Our Instagram is like usually the best way to keep up to date with any events that we have going on, and that is going to, sorry, I can't pull it up.
When you need it, it never does.
It never pulls up. Yeah. That's CAHRC and the number 2. So you can find us on Instagram. I do want to say that the last day to register to vote is October 24th. So, and then the vote center is open October 29th. So, everyone get out there. And we are also pushing no on Proposition 1, which I'm sure you've heard of, which is the no term limits on abortion, right? So we are going hard on that. No on Proposition 1. There'll be, like I said, the website should have everything updated early next week, which has the propositions we're voting for and candidates. And Orange County is going to be more like, looking at school board, city council, and all that stuff. I know David already has some up for LA. So if you want to check out the website, you can definitely see who we're endorsing so far.
Okay.
You need.
Oh, good. And with respect to the ballot measures, folks, because Mindy and I had to shuffle the schedule, I actually did do that episode, which should have gone up by now. So when you're watching this, tune into the previous episode. My take on the ballot measures is already up. And here's your cheat sheet. No on everything. So that's all you got to know. And for the measures in Los Angeles, Sacramento, and Sumter counties, no. So there you go. Just no. Boom. But you still need the cheat sheet. It'll be a variation of it will be available on their website. And mine should be up right before election season. Mindy, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And if there's anything that that's the organization or even yourself would like to amplify at some point, by all means, let me know, and I'll make sure to give it a shout out on my program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, and you're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much, and everybody, I'll see you on the next one.